Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome here to Home Depot. We need a couple things in order to install our fog lights. I'm gonna find a nice shaded parking spot because I do plan on doing this install in the parking lot here of Home Depot because I always forget something. By the time I get home, it's just annoying having to go back. And unfortunately, we do have a check engine light that has been rock steady chilling on the dashboard there, so it looks like we are going to the dealership. Dang it. But anyways, we are here at Home Depot. We're gonna grab a couple more things so I can properly wire up. I'll show you guys exactly how I go about wiring up the fog lights that we bought for the front of the Silverado. I'm gonna leave you guys right here. I'm so sorry. It's just gonna be kind of awkward if I bring you guys in there with me and I'm shopping while you guys are with me. I hope you guys understand. I'll be right back. Home Depot had almost everything I needed, but now we're here at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Need a few more things. And just like that, huge shout out to O'Reilly. They had everything I needed for a successful install of the fog lights. I don't really want to stray too far away from O'Reilly in case I have to get back over there and get another part. So we are just gonna kind of park around the corner. So as you can see, I no longer have any fog lights in the front of my bumper. Well, that's because I took the fog lights out to let them dry. I unfortunately did not take into consideration the fact that if you leave this unplugged, that is an invitation for moisture and dirt and all kinds of misfortunes to enter the lens if you leave it open. Since there wasn't a plug in there blocking the hole, we got a bunch of water in there, so I was letting it dry out. Almost done drying out, but in the meantime I took the little sticker off of this hole right here, which will also give it room to breathe. Yeah, learn from my mistakes. Before I get this install started, I do want to mention that I did not get these fog lights with this truck. They did not come with the truck. I bought these fog lights online after I bought the truck. Therefore, I need to wire them up myself. You don't get any wiring hookup when you buy the truck without fog light. You need to buy a whole new wiring harness, which then needs to be wired into a new headlight switch with the fog light button attached to it. Then the dealership needs to flash your computer so they work, and it ends up being a very expensive process. So I bought just the fog light assembly. I am going to be using my own wiring harness. I'm not using GM's wiring harness that requires you to buy a new headlight switch that has the fog light button attached to it. I'm going to be bypassing the entire computer system altogether and tapping into the headlights. Anytime the headlights are on, the fog lights will go on as well. There won't be any switch. That's how I want them. I can't think of one situation where I would not want the fog lights on while the headlights are on as well. So that's what I'll be doing. Let me show you guys exactly how I do it. So the first thing you're gonna need is a plug. You're gonna need a headlight socket, an H8 or an H11. You're gonna need two of these to plug into the back of the fog light assembly. You need to differentiate which one is positive, which one's negative. Face it toward you, then turn it around. The one on the left is negative and the one on the right is positive. I do have some wires popping out of the battery terminal here. One is for the rock lights and then one is for the switch that powers the rock lights. I will also be wiring in the wiring harness that we're going to be using to power the fog lights. I do plan on in the near future getting a power distribution block somewhere over here, so we only have to have one wire going into the battery terminal and clean things up a bit. In the meantime, it'll work just fine. Over here is the fuse box. Under the cap here, it'll show you a list of all the fuses and how many amps they pull. Right there at number 8 is fog lamp at 15 amps. That tells me that the fog lamps are pulling somewhere around 180 or 190 watts. Therefore, we are going to want a wiring harness with a relay because that's too much power for just a switch. We have a 40 amp relay. It has a 5 amp fuse in there right now. We'll go ahead and pop that 15 in here, and it leads out to 2 accessory outlets, which is perfect because we have 2 fog lights, so that's great. Auxiliary switch, which we are not going to be using because we don't want the option of turning them off and on. We are going to bypass this whole thing. I'll probably break it off right about here. White is power, black is ground, and blue is the remote or the trigger that we're going to use to tap into the headlights power because we want these things on anytime the headlights are on. So we'll use the blue to tap into the wire that powers the headlights. So anytime the headlights are on, the fog lights are going to be on as well. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and reach my hand into the plug down here that is attached to the whole headlight assembly. I want to pull that out, and then I want to figure out which wire powers just the headlights and then tap into that one. It looks like we have something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wires to figure out which one powers the headlights, and then we'll go ahead and tap into it. This is going to be a process of elimination, so first thing I'll do is turn on the parking lights to see which one is for the parking lights. No power, no power. That can't be right. Let's get a better ground. Ah, there we go. Power in this one. No power there. No power there. No power. No power. Nope. Oh, we got power there. And no power there. So let's see which one now works when the headlights are on. Headlights on. This one right here was not getting any power when the headlights were off. Now the headlight switch is on. This one's getting power. So it looks like it's gonna be this yellow wire right here to the right. It's the top right yellow wire. There's 2 yellow wires on mine here in the middle on the top. It's gonna be the one on the right hand side. We're gonna tap into that one. That's our headlight switch. Picked up 3 different colors of 14 gauge wire. We have black, we have this green, and this blue. Black, obviously I'll use for ground. I'll probably use green for the power, and then blue for the remote. So I have the blue wire cut that I'm gonna be using to tap into the yellow wire that powers the headlights. I'm gonna be using this quick splice. Basically what I'm gonna be doing is wrapping this around the yellow wire and then inserting the end of the blue wire on the other side and then pushing this down, which will then give them contact with each other. I have both wires in the quick splice. Now I'm going to go ahead and close it as hard as I can, and there we go, now we're good. And just to make sure we got power, we are good. Now I'm going to wrap it up with a little bit of electric tape to make sure that nothing gets in around the edges, like water or dirt, any kind of debris. And now we'll just go ahead and plug that harness back into the headlight. I'm gonna take the black wire and wire up the negative side of the wiring coming out of the fog light assembly, probably about 4 feet long. It's always good to have more off the bat. That way we can go ahead and trim off some later on if we need to. One thing you're gonna want is some heat shrink tubing. That way you can take one wire, slip this over one side, and then once you link the 2 wires together, you can go ahead and pull the sleeve over, heat it up, and that way it creates a nice tight seal so no water, dirt, or debris can get inside. Same thing I did with the negative wire, I'm going to do with the positive wire as well, using my green wire. I'd recommend getting a red wire, but green's what I had, so we're using green. I'm going to pull about 4 feet, just so we have a little extra so we can trim it off as we need, because I know my wiring harness is not going to reach all the way down to the fog light, the lower portion of the front bumper. So we're going to run a wire from the fog light up to the wiring harness instead. So now I have the fog lights wired up. We have the power here and we have the ground here on both sides, and then we are also tapped in to the headlight for the trigger. So time to wire up the wiring harness. I already have the negative terminal disconnected. We're gonna go ahead and pop off the cover to the battery. We have 1 tab on this side, 1 tab on that side. Loosen those up and this thing comes right off right there that we need to remove, so we can go ahead and install our new wiring harness. So on the wiring harness, we have a red cable and we have a black cable. Red is going onto the positive terminal of the battery, and then black is going to be grounded on one of the bolts on the side of the engine bay. Okay, so now I have the red wire wired up to the positive terminal. I'm gonna go ahead and find a good place to ground this. So now I'm gonna go ahead and install the fog lights back into the bumper and feed the wires up to the top of the engine bay, wire everything together, and we should be pretty much good to go. Now we have the fog lights back in the bumper. I also fed the wires out through the top of the engine bay. We have the ground here, power here, as well as this side. Also, we have the blue wire that's tapped directly into the headlights power source. We're only gonna use that blue wire to meet with this blue wire. Being that this is hooked up to a constant power source, the battery, this blue wire here is going to tell that blue wire when to turn on the fog lights. So here we have the wiring harness switch, which has a connector right here that you can disconnect. Here is the switch. We're not going to use this, so we're going to go ahead and disconnect it right here, and all we're going to need is this blue wire right here in the middle. We're going to hook that blue wire up to this blue wire, which is connected to our headlight, and that will tell the fog lights when to function. Now that the wires have been fed up from the driver's side, tucked underneath this plastic piece here, and fed out to the passenger side, it's all been cut and looking perfect. Now it's time to start wiring everything up. Here are the accessory outputs coming from the wiring harness. One for the driver's side fog light and then one for the passenger side fog light. We're gonna be chopping off the tips of these connectors because we're not gonna be using these connectors. we're gonna be splicing the wires together instead and using the heat shrink tubing. Bam. It'll be a lot easier with a wire splitter. First things first, I'm gonna hook up the heat shrink tubing, and then I'm going to splice the wires together. This is the positive wire that came from the fog light on the driver's side, and this is the red wire, the positive wire coming from the wiring harness. I'm gonna splice those together, twist them up really good, throw the sleeve over it, and time for the ground wire. Now we have the driver's side done. Time to wire up the passenger side. And now the final thing to wire up is going to be the blue wire coming from the wiring harness and the blue wire coming from the headlight's power supply. Slide our heat shrink tube in, link these together. Alright, so we have everything wired up and tucked away real nice. It's been zip tied to the side, looking pretty. If my calculations are correct and we turn the headlights on, we should have power to the fog lights. So let's see. Oh yeah, no way, that looks so sick. What? That is pretty much going to be a wrap on the installation of wiring the fog lights up to my Silverado. Hopefully this helped some of you guys out who are looking to wire your fog lights up the same way that I did. That is all I have for you guys today. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed. I will catch you guys on the next one. Till then, peace out.